My name is Andrew. For those of you that haven't met me yet, I can see some new people here joining. So I'm a customer success engineer. I'm I'm here responsible for training, sharing best practices, how to sell more, how to improve the performance of your operations, how to use the channels limitations, channels best practices. I try to share as much as possible so that you can take as much advantage of the software as you can have, right? So we have these sessions every week, usually Thursdays. You know, this one and last week it was a Friday, but it's usually on Thursday. All right. Uh, Thank you all for coming. I know it is Friday is always a busy day, for a property manager, right? So I try to avoid Fridays, but I apologize. But this time it was the only time that we could do it, right? So important before you ask uh, for the new ones, of course, right? So it's always recorded, right? So if you don't have time, to join, if it is if you are in a different time zone, don't worry, it will be recorded and the recording will be sent to everyone that registers, right? So if you're attending the webinar, you're going to get the recording. If you do not, you're going to get the recording as long as you register, right? So if you register, we understand that you are interested in the subject, right? So uh, it's a practical session. So I encourage you to ask questions because we are going to spend time, as you can see, I don't have many slides here. I try to avoid that because I believe that everyone that is here is trying to understand how to use the software rather than uh, uh, just just theoretical information, right? Sometimes we need just to give some context of the scenario on why we are doing certain things, right? But today we are going to talk about communication. So kind of obvious, why we need communication, why we need to communicate better with the guest, right? So, and what are the tools available here? Automations, AI, everything that we can have to improve that experience and make it communication faster and more effective, right? So, with that said, I'm going to the dashboard, right? And you can feel free to ask questions anytime, right? Just post on the Q&A. Unless I'm in the middle, of an explanation going from point A to point C, I will finish the line of thought and then I go to the questions. All right. Okay. So first of all, I will start with the shortcuts, right? Many times I get together with clients, that have been using for many years, but they just didn't pay attention to some of the shortcuts that we have, right? So, for example, straight from the calendar, you can click here. If you click on messages, you go to your inbox, right? So I see some people clicking many times, to get to a place, and I know it could be a little bit of a waste of time, right? So every shortcut here helps, right? So this is how you can go straight from the calendar and more specifically, right? From the calendar, you can go straight to the reservation that you want to talk about, right? So if you want to engage into a conversation, with this guest, you're already here, right? I'm already getting some questions here. Yes, not everyone has AI reply rules, but this is rolling out next week, right? So I decided to show you so that you can learn how to use and you can hit the ground running, right? So this is about to be released next week. So I'm going to show you a little bit about it, right? But just in case you still don't have it, some of our clients are already testing that, and you might be one of them, but many still don't have it, right? But I'm going to show how it works and how to take advantage of that, right? So let's start, since we're talking here about the tabs, right? So we have this one. I'm gonna leave a little down the road. We have message templates, message templates. You can create templates, you can give it a name, you can color code it, and you can use text in combination with variables, right? So you can select the variables that come from the custom field. It could come from the listing information. It could be standard fields. It could be custom fields that you create custom fields. And you can use that, right? So like guest name, right? So many variables you can use here, right? What is the objective of the template? It's just to make your life easier to answer questions that are frequently asked, right? So AI is a new thing, right? So before AI, template was the only option, to address that in a quicker way, right? You see that AI is doing an excellent job replacing that, right? So you might continue to have templates, but I'm sure that very soon, template is going to be a thing from the past, right? But today, and of course, while your team is still adapting, you're adapting to AI, you can create as many templates as you want. You can create templates that only work for specific listings, right? So in this case here, it's for all the listings, right? But you can select only the listings that you want to apply, right? Or even to specific channels. Some answers would be customized for clients coming from any specific channel, right? So you can use that. And you can add the description and some other information, okay? So this is the template. So for example, all right, let's see the use of a template for those of you that haven't seen it yet. So if I'm here, let me get this one. For example, right? If I click on the templates are here at the bottom, right? So on the third part of the page, then if I click on address, it populates with the information that we already have inside the listing, right? So you don't have to go to the listing or copy paste things from one place to another. You just use the variable in the template and it will fetch this information here. And then you click, it fetches the information, and then you decide if you want to send it or not, right? So not right now. We are not interested on that yet, right? And then we have automations and a managed message. But before we go, right, since I came here to the template, right? So on this side, you can see all the guests, right? You can see the channel. You can see check-in and check-out status, right? So if you see like two green balls, it means that it has checked in and checked out. But it could be that they have just checked in and then you see only one side green, right? So if it is everything transparent, it means that it is still an upcoming stay, right? So you can see check-in and checkout date, and a very quick summary here, just the eye of the information of the last communication, right? Here you see the thread. Some channels, they import the thread, like Airbnb. Not all the channels do that as soon as you integrate. Once you're integrated, of course, it is expected to have all the thread from all communication, from all the channels that you're communicating, and all clients, all guests that you're communicating will be here in the middle, right? And then here you have details of the reservation, right? So like the listing name, like address, email, phone number, channel, number of guests. And another important thing, the shortcuts, right? So from here, we can open the reservation directly. I don't have to go to reservation and keep going back and forth. You can open the calendar and see this specific reservation in the calendar. You can open the guest portal from here. On the calendar, talking about calendar, right? We can see the calendar here, right? because this is a direct reservation, even if I have to cancel, I don't even have to leave this page, right? So a direct reservation, I can also modify check-in time, check-out time, that's possible. And then I can save anything, right? Or there is also a shortcut here to create templates. All right. Now, this is this side, right? So with a lot of information about the reservation. Okay, but you can see, you can modify, and you can interact. Maybe someone is asking, to extend their stay. So you want to see if there is availability here or not. And this is this third column here, but it will work here from the thread, things that you can see even before I start communicating, right? So you can mark as unread in case you still want someone else, or come back here because, well, people have different ways to manage their inbox, right? Some people like myself, I like to keep things as unread to make sure that I come back, when I read, I act on it, right? So you can add a note. If you add a note here, uh, only your colleagues will be able to see, right? So nobody from the guest side will be able to see that. And it will stick here, right? For example, webinar test, right? So then I add this information and it's here, right? You can see it's Hostaway because it's not visible. It was not a user interacting with the guest and not the guest interacting back with a user or the host, right? So this is what the note is for. And then we have star guest, can be used in many different ways, right? I have some clients that use for guests that are difficult, right? So they like to put a star to make sure that they are very careful with the communication, right? So this is one thing that you can do. But I also have, just to start because of a methodology that someone created inside, the company, and they start one type of stay, right? I'll show you soon, where how does it, get tracked, right? So only star is just the beginning of it. You can assign the conversation, right? So we can have many users and we can assign a conversation to one specific user. Maybe, for example, in the case that I mentioned, it could be a difficult guest. You might want to send to your more experienced communicator, right? You can archive conversations, right? Because you can have maybe again, it depends on your methodology, right? So I have some clients, as soon as they answer, they archive things, right? Or they just archive as soon as the guest checks out. It's up to you, right? The way to do it, you can snooze and you can hide details, right? So you can have more space here to visualize the communication, right? Regarding archive, you can also bulk edit, right? So you can select that everything from the past, and you can mark as read, right? So in case you have already checked and unchecked and things like that, then you can archive that, right? Then you archive and confirm that everything in the past you want to archive, right? It's still visible. That's why it's called archive and not delete, right? So already got a question here from Alicia. Thanks, Alicia, for the question. So why archive? Because you're not interacting or you're not expecting to interact anymore, right? But it's still, right? So let's say the guest in the past, you can leave the inbox here. It doesn't matter. Again, it depends on your methodology, but some people like to clean the inbox and keep the inbox only with the active conversations, right? Or with the staying guests. Again, it depends on the way that you work, right? And it doesn't mean that it went away, right? It only means that it will be here on archived conversations, right? So, and these conversations would be the active ones, right? So That's the reason for it. It's just a way to organize information. All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm already getting questions about the AI replies. That's why I mentioned at the beginning, not everybody, you know, not everyone has it yet, right? So this is coming, right? This is coming next week. So it's about to be released. I'm going to show you anyway. So when you get it released, you see it. All right. So just be a little patient. It's coming, but I decided to do it before, right? So then when it comes, you already have in mind, the way that you prefer to use it. Okay. Um, Let me go over some questions here. All right, I have some questions. Okay, good question. Alicia is asking about text messages and Airbnb because they are not sharing the phone number. If they are not sharing the phone number, yeah, SMS is not going to work. And WhatsApp is not going to work, right? Everything else will work, but anything that depends on the phone number, no, it will not be available here to communicate, right? This is unexpected behavior. The channels, like Airbnb, Booking.com, for example, they prefer that you communicate directly on the dashboard, right? So dashboard to dashboard, but I'm sorry, app to app, right? So if the guest is opening the app, the conversation is there. Why is that the case, right? Because they want to be able to mediate, let's say, for example, there is the guest is asking for check-in information. They have already paid, they have already provided, like rental agreement, everything that you requested, but still you haven't shared like the address, right? To get to the place. So in that case, they can go over the communication and mediate the case and say, hey, you did not provide the check-in information for the guest, right? So you are at fault, or the guest is at fault because of the communication that is here. That's the reason behind, right? So sometimes we create some new features that are available to do through phone number, direct contact. Let's put it like that, because it could be the phone number and it could be the guest direct email, right? So that's not expected unless it is a channel, for example, like Expedia, that doesn't have an API for communication and integration, with the software. In that case, they share the email, right? So it's not a proxy mail, right? It's the real email, all right? And that's the reason why, right? I already see some questions here about why Expedia, shares the email. That's the reason why, right? So they do not have that technology. Some of you that are already using Vrbo for some time, you know that before Vrbo didn't have an API for that, right? So, and then it was the same way. It was an email. So, and what was the downside of it, right? So everything has benefits, and up and downside. So with Vrbo, what would happen, and it's still happening with Expedia, is that because it is the email, it goes to the guest email, but not to the app. So someone is looking at the app and saying, yeah, the host has not communicated with me, but the email went to their Gmail or whatever email they're using, it's in the inbox, but the email inbox, right? But not in the app. So there are advantages and disadvantages of both, right? So the good thing is that the communication, most of the guests, they expect to see the information on their app, right? And then can I also make notifications to be sent to the email, right? So information is in the app, right? So that's why, if the phone number is not available, yeah, so any SMS, WhatsApp, anything related to phone, will not be available as well. Okay. But yeah, that's a common question and a common expectation, right? And that's why, also, okay, since we are talking about the reasons behind things, because many hosts uh we're trying many hosts, yeah, some hosts, right? So we're trying to bypass the channel, right? So they were trying to communicate with the guest and trying to get the guest to cancel the reservation with the channel and book directly with them, right? So it's like it is it doesn't follow the business logic of the channels that are working upon a commission that they're going to get paid if the guest stays, right, and everything. So some of the things of the communication are made to convert, all the communication between host and guest to happen inside the channel, right? And we have all the integrations. Our integrations are very good with every channel that has a communication API. We have it integrated and they work perfectly, right? And the best practice is use the channel communication, right? So thanks for the question. Okay. Hi, Z. It's TR. So archiving questions. Some people here are asking me about archiving questions, right? So you can come here to bulk update here on the upper right corner, and you can select the date and say that everything past this date will be archived, right? So I can say maybe, this is still too close, maybe something like, all right, everything past this month, from last month back, I'm going to archive, right? So, and it's going to be available from here, no longer from here, right? So you can keep your inbox clean. That's the idea behind it, right? So, and again, another question about archiving a guest. You don't archive the guest, you archive the reservation thread, right? So that's what we are talking about. And if they come back communicating, it will show up on your thread. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Okay. I have I have someone anonymous here because they didn't provide the name, to log in, having difficulty to use their own email. Yeah, you can request to use your own email. It is possible. So when we are here, when you're communicating with the guest, here, test, this one here, these ones were all automated ones. See if I can find one. You see here it shows Andrew main account, but it could show the user. So you can find a way that it shows the email when you receive on the other side. It looks with your own domain, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share additional assistance form, right? So please, you still need assistance, right? So you were not able to complete what you're doing, but you're mixing things about domain and communication here. Not sure about it, but anyway, I cannot open your account here in front of everyone, So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share here in the chat so that you can request assistance. And actually, that's for everyone, right? So if you need assistance, if you need someone from my team to join you on a call and troubleshoot anything that you're seeing, yeah, by all means, right? So I try to give an overview of things that work for everyone, right? But sometimes only opening the dashboard and seeing things together so that we can understand and troubleshoot the way that you have set up, especially if it is about domain, we still have to see where you have on your domain provider if it is sending the information correctly to Hostaway. All right. So please provide your email, your account ID, You can find your account ID here on settings. This is your account ID. So, and your name, right? And inform. It could be anything, right? Doesn't have to be related to what we're talking today. It could be related to anything. And we'll have someone, from our team reaching out. All right. Thank you. Okay. Cecil is asking me about sending URLs to on the messages to reservations from OTAs. Again, it's the same thing as the phone number and everything, right? So uh, actually a little bit different, right? Because beside the thing of bypassing the channel and trying to bring the guest to book a direct reservation, URLs, they have a risk associated with it, right? So every software, everyone that works with software is concerned with malicious links, right? So what we also share some links. It's just that they are white labeled, right, by the software. Sometimes even on their side, they have difficulty to understand which one are safe and which one are not, right? So, and it happens sometimes. And in some cases, like booking.com, for example, you have to go and you have to configure things and inform them that this is expected, right? That you're sending from a software. So, long story short, URLs in general are not expected to be sent. But if you go in some cases, well, I will show you soon, right? So let's go over like rental agreement, online check-in form, because that's very important, and it will help you to understand more, of what I'm talking about, right? So because some of the links are possible to be sent. I don't know exactly what you want to send with the link, right? I believe that's the better question is a better question is like, okay, what kind of information would you like to share? Okay, Bhargav is asking the template to not automatically send. Okay, they're not automatically sent, right? The template you use them during the communication, right? So I select here, like on the example that I mentioned, I use address here and it populates here. If I click, I send, right? So it's not automatically sent. We have communication message automations here. This is automatically sent, right? So this and another way that you can see this communication, if we go here to the inbox again, for example, this one, I can see which automation, sent this information, right? This is a link. So I can go to this link here and I will see, okay, what was the automation? And then you can even modify and improve. And we have an automation here that has combination of text, variables here, right? You can modify if you need any information. You can add information here, for example, from standard fields, right? From custom fields, from the reservation. So you see guest name, everything. So you can customize this information based on the information that is coming from the reservation, this communication based on what is coming from the reservation and what you already have on the listing, right? And then you can see here, you can connect to specific ones. This one will be automated, right? And even this one, if it gets scheduled, like in here, example, this one. So you see as upcoming scheduled message, and then you can cancel it, right? So if you go here, it's scheduled, right? So I can modify, I can send it right now, or I can cancel, or I can add it, right? So you can interact with the automation, but automation is one thing and the message template is another one, right? Another important thing about automations is many people forget is that you can add here different triggers, right? So why are they important? because first of all, we have many triggers, right? And you may be very often, I see people missing, all the triggers because you can accomplish many things automatically without having to do it yourself. The classic ones is like a reservation. Oh, thank you for booking. Check-in instructions, checkout instructions, right? Guest inquiries, you can reply automatically, right? Pending reservation, reservation cancellation, right? Reservation cancellation, for example, I see many people missing the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm sorry that you're canceling, but if you want to stay, we have a discount here, for you to stay between, and then you can select your low season, for example, right? And send a coupon discount for that, right? Automatically, without you having to interact, without you having to remember. Payment fail, that's a giant one, right? So the payment fail. You can use this one to send a message. Hey, I noticed it failed. Please check with your bank and contact us. Otherwise, you might have to cancel your reservation, right? Things like that save you time, right, on the communication. And for example, on the failed payment, I would also add myself in CC here, just to pay a closer attention to that reservation and make sure that you collect the money before the guest checks in, right? Day of the week, that's another one, right? So I have some clients that they have trash collection on a specific day. So if it is on a Wednesday, why don't you have a schedule like a Tuesday, right? To send to this guest. And of course, it's going, you see, trigger on check-in day, trigger on checkout day. And there are still some combinations here that can be added, right? And of course, it's only going to the guest if the guest is staying, right? So then another one, common one, message received, for example. Uh, why do we have this kind of trigger? Because some people they go shopping, you know, for things, for supplies and things like that on a specific day of the week, and maybe you're driving, you're not available to communicate quickly, right? So you can leave a message. Hey, sorry, but today, I'm doing this and that. I will get shortly with you. Something quick, but at least the guest doesn't feel like, they're taking too long to communicate. Uh, they can get anxious. Right? Dark code created. So depending on your software, it might take a longer time to create the dark code, right? So you can send an information as soon as the dark code is sent. Online check-in form submitted, right? So then payment successful, day of the week, guest submitted a review, right? And this one you can also use in combination with guest review. Not this one. It's not the one that I prefer. Review rating, right? So if it is a perfect score, you can send, a very gracious message, right? And if it is not so great, you can ask them, okay, would you mind giving me, details of your bad experience, why you didn't give us a 5-star, So these are things that can automate, many of messages. They are very important, in the business, right? Another one, not not only we have the triggers, but we also have in combination with that. So for example, here, checking instructions, right? Another, many times, I get complaints of hosts that got a reservation and the guest didn't pay it, right? But you can have an additional condition, right? So we send the check-in instruction, let's say 1 or 2 days before the guest arrival. You can send this instruction only if the reservation is paid, right? So if it failed the payment, you don't share the check-in instruction, right? So, or at least partially paid, depending on how you work. Another very important condition here is if online check-in form is submitted, right? So in case you have to collect IDs, if you have to collect information, right? Rental agreement, another one, is signed, right? So maybe this is the minimum condition that you have, to accept a guest, and you can do that automatically, right? So there is no reason to miss that. Okay. So what else I have here? Listing is available. So this one, let's forget a little bit about this, and let's focus on availability, right? So you can schedule, something to upsell, right? You can offer automatically to the guest. For example, maybe 10 days before the check-in, you can inform if the listing has 1 day before stay, and you can offer, hey, we have an additional day. If you want to arrive earlier, we can give you a discount, right? So, or after stay, or before and after stay, right? So again, upsells opportunities, that you could be missing and could be automated, right? Very, very important ones. And all you have to do is pay attention, spend some time here, and think about everything, right? So on how would that work? Because the same way, that we have the positive, we have the reversal side of things, right? And what I mean by that, for example, if on the additional condition on payment status, let's say if it is unpaid, right? Maybe I can send a message to this guest like 3 days before, if it hasn't paid yet, right? Hey, you haven't completed your payment. Please reach out to us because, we have to complete your payment so we can release, checking instructions, for example, right? So things to handle again, and remove many of the manual work that you would have to do, and remember and look for cases, the system is already doing for you, right? When it's related to payment, again, I would always put myself in copy here to make sure that it gets everybody's attention, or an email that goes to the entire financial team, right? If you have more than one person working on finance, right? So that's a very important one. Here, of course, many of you already know it connects to all the channels unless you want to remove any of them, So, for example, on the URL information and things like that, if you remove everything, right, and you leave only Hostaway, direct, a website, Google, right, all the direct, you see that even some customizations, will appear here for you, right? So that you can add images, you can attach files and everything to be sent automatically. Because then you can expect that this information will get through, right? Now, going back to the inbox, right? So let's take this one for example, right? So what am I talking about? Some links, URLs being white labeled, right? In this case here, it was a thank you for booking for this reservation, right? So there is a check-in form here that is being shared with the guest, right? So if you, again, let's see this automation now from that perspective. How do we set this up, right? So when you're creating the communication, you select this variable here, online check-in link, right? So how do you select? Select from here, right? So you go on the standard fields and you select online, you type here, online, and you click on the variable, right? It will bring here. Now, what does it do? It brings the guest portal, copy, and I'm going to open here, paste, so that you can see how the guest will see. So this is a URL, right? But the difference is that this one was white labeled, right? It is expected, that one, right, to be sent to the channels. So, and then you give the chance for the guests, to modify the time that they will arrive. And let's say they want to arrive earlier, it will not accept, right? Because 4 o'clock is the check-in. But if they want to arrive later, That's okay. The system accepts. Same with checkout, right? It will accept. Then they provide the name, the first name, right? So let's put Getty, then Lee, and then nationality. That's not mandatory. Only this is mandatory. Phone number, and then rental agreement, right? So you can combine them both. It's going to show the rental agreement. Again, nobody needs any specific software for that. I can just put here and provide my beautiful signature here and then submit, right? And it's done. And then I just submitted the rental agreement and now I submit also the form, right? And now it is completed. This is the guest perspective, right? So they're seeing here, but if I go, so what it did, it modified the reservation, and now it has this information inside. The online check-in form and the rental agreement have been signed, right? So if I had that condition of only sharing the information with that, so now it has accomplished, right? Now, let me show you a little bit about AI here. This new AI replies rules, right? So we already had this one, but this one was limited, right? So even though it was using ChatGPT, it had a limitation on going inside the listing and understanding everything about the listing, so you don't have to feed all this information, right? So now, for example, the guest just asked, do you have air conditioning? So without having to inform, the AI, if you have it or not, all you have to do, it's pre-populated, the answer here. Yes, the place does have air conditioning. I hope you're looking forward to stay. And then you decide if you want to click or if you want to edit the message, right? So then I can click send, and it goes. Error, I probably have the same email on both sides, right? So it generated an error, but it was sent, right? If you go here to AI reply rules, how do you see? AI context information, right? Again, for those of you that arrived later, I have already explained this is still not available for everyone, but it will be like next week, right? So here you can see all the information that is feeding the AI, right? So that you don't have to create templates with all this information here. It will be available, right? Directly to the AI, right? What you have to do is you can add a new rule, right? You can give it a name and you can explain as if it was a prompt what you expect the software to do, right? The AI to do. So for example, early check-in, late checkout, address, the example that I was giving, it's going to get to a point, that you don't have to create templates for this kind of thing, right? Because the AI will know all the information. What you're going to do is create the rules, the tone that you want to communicate, and then the AI will prepare that for you, right? So we'll release first for dashboard, and then it will come for the mobile. You'll be able to use that on the go, right? So you don't have to remember all the amenities, right? And then when we're talking about amenities, we're talking about hundreds in a specific listing, right? So you don't have to remember, does it have air conditioning? Does it take path? Does it is does it have a swimming pool? Is the swimming pool open, not open? So this kind of information will all rely on your listings, right? And the AI will get this information for you, right? So then you don't have to worry about it. So I believe this is going to be a very, very good uh, application, for people that don't have time and they want AI to make to really help rather than just having something that is nice to have, right? It's going to be a must have. You see soon, right? And we also have WhatsApp Business. right? So what is the difference? So we have this WhatsApp here, already got some questions on that regard, right? So if you have the phone number, you can use this WhatsApp. What is the limitation of this WhatsApp? That is for anyone, is that it's based on templates, right? If you create an account with Meta on WhatsApp Business, because you have to certify yourself, and identify yourself to Meta, you'll be able to use any kind of communication inside web WhatsApp, right? So you don't have to stick with templates. And depending on the region, uh, that's something that is extremely important, right? So, for example, my background, I'm from Brazil. Latin America is crazy about WhatsApp. They spend the whole day, using WhatsApp. So that's going to help a lot, of course, considering you have the phone number here to communicate. Okay. And it is it is very important for many guests, because guests that have the habit of reading WhatsApp, they read every day and they read all day long. And if they forgot to leave notifications on the channel, that's what I was talking about, right? Downside of things. So then they will get straight on their phone, on WhatsApp, right? So you can customize the message, the content. Uh, you can add support in different languages. So it will be a fully branded experience, right? So by branded experience, I have here, let me show, yeah, I can show you a little bit more about that. And again, if you want to use it, biggest concern, with WhatsApp Business is if you're already using WhatsApp Business, I always recommend to create a new number to connect, because if you connect your existing number, it will delete, all the history that you already have, or try to back up everything that you have in the past, because that's a meta limitation. Okay, that's not a Hostaway. This is from the software itself. So meta, if you connect the same number, it resets all the conversation and deletes all the past, right? Just keep that in mind. So as you can see, you can use a brand. It will be that's what we mean by a branded communication, right? And you can create up to 250 WhatsApp messages, branded experience, uh, and you find out that many guests will prefer to communicate with you that way, right? So EMEA, Latin markets, yeah, that's a must-have. What else we have? So, and this is how it looks, right? And how you can use some of the templates here. And again, right, if you need assistance with that, I recommend you to, again, I will share again, for those of you that arrive later, I'm sharing again in the chat so that you can request assistance, and I can have someone to assist you with WhatsApp Business, okay? So, but it's a very powerful one, may take a little time, to set up with Meta. I got some feedback that it's not easy, but again, right, it is their platform. We can only work with that, right? But the outcome, it's very good. We have been receiving very good feedback, from clients that are already testing, right? So if you want to use, just let us know. If you need assistance, and getting that implemented. All right. So now let me go back. Checking form has been submitted. Right. So we can see that on the communication. Just going back, I want to show you where you can set up the online check-in form. And here is where we can see rental agreement is signed. So that's why the automation will work in combination with that, right? So let's go to the listing. Already got a couple of questions here about, yeah, but how did I set up this, right? So here on the listing, you go to the guest portal and you activate online check-in form, right? If you activate then every new reservation will require to have the online check-in form, right? After you're activating that. And then you can select what kind of information do you want. Remember, we modified a little bit, check-in time, checkout time. I have very little because I wanted to test and show you, the way that it worked, right? But you can have some information like ID numbers, ID photos, right? Many people here concerned with security, so to make sure that you know the person that is coming to you, right, to your property, you can check, of course. If it is a mandatory thing, depending on the channel, only if it is a mandatory thing, in your area, right? In Europe, for example, many countries, it is a mandatory thing, and you even have to share as a host with the local authorities, right? In US, not so much, right? You can create your own questions. Here is the rental agreement. You can customize, you can paste your own rental agreement here, but we have a template in case. And here, you can also add information like guest portal details are visible, like when, and you can add additional conditions here, right? When it will be visible from the guest portal. So this is how you set it up, all right? Let me go over some questions here. Okay, David, thank you for the question. Where you can have the video, you will receive on the email that you registered, you will receive here. And anyway, you can always find it here. If you go to your need support user guide, if you scroll here, you can see 2025 customer success office hours, right? So you can watch the old ones as well, right? So you may get tired of listening to me, but we have many other ones here, right? So this one is the only one that doesn't have the recording because we're still doing it, right? But if you want to watch any old one, it's here. I'm going to share here, in case that is of the interest of anyone. But yeah, so I try to keep this as updated as possible. As you can see, this one from our last week, the link is already here, right? So you can click here and watch the recording, or you can just check your email. Zoom will automatically send. I add the links there, so you'll be able to see it. Okay, thanks for the question. Okay, a question here: how do I make a setting that the reservation is canceled if guests do not make a payment after payment failure? That's not an option, right? So you have to manually cancel it, right? Because I give you one example. If you're canceling a verbal reservation, you have to specify that was lack of payment, from the guest. If it is Airbnb, you don't even receive the reservation, if the payment failed, right? So right at the beginning. So different conditions here, right? And you can always cancel. What you can make sure is that if it is a direct, for example, you can cancel yourself, right? So as soon as the payment doesn't go through, and the person will not get the check-in instruction. So yeah, it is basically canceled, right? So you can assume it is canceled, and but you can open your availability. Right? So, but no, we don't automatically cancel because let's say, for example, you receive the payment in cash, right? The system is not seeing that. And we have clients that work with bank transfer with other conditions and do not update here. So we decided not to do that automatically. Yeah, another question about sending links. No. Or attaching images automatically. Same thing. Also no for the channels. And at the same time, it is important to realize that it's an inbox that works with any channel, right? So some of the things they have to be normalized in order to work with every channel, right? So every channel has a different technology, and many channels do not accept attachments. They would accept it if you add to their platform, but when you are adding to the platform, you're doing one by one and they're verifying that as they upload. So Adam is asking here, how do I set up a white label link for check-in Yeah, the check-in is the information itself, right? So when we are talking about checking instructions, right? I'm assuming it is that, like door code, address, many people keep that kind of information or Wi-Fi password just to share like a day or 2 days before the guest arrival, right? What you can create is the condition to share or not to share, depending on the guest performing certain things that you have requested, right? So, but if you're sending, like in this case, this is created by the link that I showed you before, right? So online check-in form variable will generate based on the information of the listing of the guest reservation. It will create that link automatically, right? All you have to do is add this variable here to the communication. The system will generate the URL. Okay. Okay. Laura is asking a very good question. When a guest asks something that the AI already knows, we will send an answer automatically. This is coming, all right? Not right now, but we are still working on tasks. Why is that? In many cases, because of hallucinations and everything, it could be an unexpected answer, right? So we want to make sure that we are very close to 100% accuracy, in order to have automatically implemented, right? But it's coming. It is coming. But we are testing first. Right now, it is the assisted mode, right? So it generates the answer, and then you still have to click so that you can check if it makes sense, and then you click and you send, right? But this is coming. It's just that we had many bad experiences, sometimes even with the tone, that the guests felt that they were being treated in a harsh way, right? So it could be many things, right? Or it could be just that it gave an answer that had nothing to do with the reality, right? Hallucination is decreasing a lot with the new versions coming, and we are testing a lot to make sure. But yes, it is coming. Okay, questions about Vrbo. Thank you, Mahi. Yeah, sometimes it fails in Vrbo. Yeah, we have already communicated and escalated that. Yeah, but this is something on their software, right? And there is nothing that we can fix on our side, but sometimes they might block a link because of the security they have on their side. But I know it can be very inconvenient. Yes, David is asking about can we have AI, to share information about restaurants, transportation, tourism spot. Yes, that's a very good use of AI, right? Create the rule, add this information, to one of the fields where it's pulling information from, and then you can use that. Yes, that's a very good use, right? All right. Uh, Still have more questions. I'm sorry, I will not be able to go over all of them, but you can always ask, my team, or you can ask, you can create a ticket, ask support for additional help, and but and I bring all your questions and everything to the product team, right? So this is everything that you bring here, are questions to improve, to make sure that we get the best product, with the best way for you to use it, to understand, to make it simple, and to make your life more effective. All right, and your business more effective. Well, thank you very much. I have to end today, and appreciate you all coming. And I see you next week. All right, thank you very much. Bye. Have a good day.